to be clear, I've now offered you three times.
I made myself very clear.
Oh, you've made yourself very clear.
You asked me 5 times.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too.
Disrupt America.
Weird thing to happen. It is devastating what's happening in the Middle East. It's still happening with Gaza. What's happening over there is just absolutely just insidious, just awful and revolting, and it just makes people angry and upset. And I know people want to try and get away from it as much as possible because they don't want to see any more of the coverage. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear the devastation. So they're trying to, whitewash it, or they're trying to mask away from it. But people should continue to be alarmed by this. And I know that it's heartbreaking. I know it's disgusting. Anytime you see footage, like, how can you not have any sympathy or empathy unless you're one of these Zionist psychopaths that just have no morality, have no empathy or any sort of value or morality for anyone outside their cult. How can you not? And we have to keep, as individuals, as people around the world, have to keep on this information as much as possible and bring people this coverage to never let this be covered up. Because while the rest of the media tries to move on, these devastations are still continuing. So here, for example, this guy, Saul Steinforth, tweets out this: the Israeli army shot down at the desperate people looking for aid for their families. 79 people were killed. These are incidents we see every day. I have no words to describe the shameful humanity we are witnessing every single day. And this is quoting a interview on Sky News, that's the UK. This woman, Caroline Williman, who's a doctor. She's a doctor serving humanitarian aid. She's from the MSF, which is the Médecins Sans Frontières. So that's like an international, kind of like a Doctors Without Borders organization. So she's in Gaza. She's treating these people, mostly children, that are being attacked deliberately by the IDF, by soldiers that are initializing these humanitarian aid spots. And they're purposely undermining Palestinians by bringing them to this humanitarian aid site, thinking that they're going to get some sort of relief after the damages and destruction of their towns and cities and just the entire country as a whole. And the people lining up for this humanitarian aid get shot down. And they're deliberately attacking them. So here's what this doctor is saying about the devastation.
My colleagues were present as well just a few days ago when dozens of wounded and dead streamed into the emergency room after an incident at Zikim in the north of the Gaza Strip, where trucks of aid had arrived of the World Food Programme. An Israeli army shot at the desperate people looking for aid for their families. 79 people were killed that day. These are incidents that we see every single day. I have no words for this to describe the shame for humanity that we are witnessing here on every single day. I have been now 4 weeks in Gaza. It was desperate when I arrived, and I cannot fathom that in those 4 weeks it has gotten worse every single day.
It's getting worse and worse every single day. That's what the doctor is saying here. And you know how bad it is when even a place like NBC News can't even hide this anymore. They're still trying to, because even with this report, you could see that they don't mention directly who is involved. They just report the fact that, some people have died waiting for the humanitarian aid. But we all know it's not that hard to figure out. It's not rocket science to figure out why these children, why innocent lives are being slaughtered at a humanitarian aid site when the country that's invading them, the country that has capitulated against the Palestinians and have demonized them for almost over a century, Because we're not just even talking about October 7th. This is going as far back as the Nakba, as the formation of Israel started. That the Israeli establishment, the Israeli, along with the Mossad, along with MI6, along with the CIA, that's why the formation of Israel even exists, is because the intelligence services are using this particular colonization to their advantage. They're the ones engaging in the onset slaughter of people waiting in line for humanitarian assistance. So NBC News says, dead children, malnutrition, and a lack of aid. Gaza's humanitarian crisis worsens. Hundreds of Palestinians in the enclave have been killed trying to collect aid, while dozens of people, including children, have died from malnutrition. The hunger crisis in the Gaza Strip has soared alarmingly in weeks, health workers have warned, with a growing number of children dying of malnutrition, while thousands of people across the besieged Palestinian enclave suffer from dire lack of adequate food. Even we, the young ones, can barely walk due to the lack of food, said Walid Abu Mohsen, a father of 7 from Khan Yunis. He told NBC News crew on the ground Sunday of his relief after plucking a sack of flour from the few trucks that arrived to offer relief to rushing crowds in the city. In another desperate corner of Gaza, footage captured the deadly aftermath after scores were killed waiting for supplies that might have let them feed their families. Famine is now striking Gaza alarmingly and terrifyingly, Dr. Mohammed Salmiya, director of the Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, told NBC News crew as he warned of hospitals being overwhelmed with waves of patients suffering from malnutrition. He said at least 2 children had died at Al-Shifa on Saturday alone. 19 deaths were recorded in Gaza due to malnutrition within the last 24 hours. The Palestinian Health Ministry in the territory said Monday. NBC News was not immediately able to independently confirm the figures. They add to want more than 70 deaths related to malnutrition since the war began, according to Salmiya, with more than 50 children dying of malnutrition since Israel launched a blockade restricting aid into Gaza in early March, according to the World Health Organization. So, this is all deliberate. This is a psychotic cult involved in the greater Israeli project, in the further expansion of the Zionist prophecy, that they hate anyone living in this territory. Anyone that's helping people within the Palestinian region, anyone that serves the need outside of their prophecy, they despise. And that is why they are doing deliberate acts like this. This is why you see just horrendousness and them lying to the general public, and they're buying out the rest of the media and blackmailing others to comply with this, because they know. They openly brag about this constantly. If you want to know the truth about what Israel has done to Palestinians, what they're doing around the world, look no further than the Israeli media itself, because they are no stranger. They don't hide. They don't cover up themselves. They expose in great detail about what atrocities they're doing to people, especially young kids. And I say this, and I know people, want to move on from this. They pretend not to care about this, or they say that, well, it's out of our reach and there's nothing we can do about it. Note that your money's paying for this, for one thing, that your tax dollars, every time there's foreign aid going to Israel, that this is what it's funding. And note that anyone that claims that they're, very pro-family, you're very Christian valued, very pro-family, after even what Israel did to that Catholic Church, which we're going to discuss in a later segment, which is now opened more people up to realize the diabolicalness of Israel and the IDF and how their intentions were not faithful to what they claimed to protecting people on October 7th. They're finally realizing, they're seeing the light of this atrocity. People should have an understanding that if you truly care about children, if you really care about being pro-life, and if you really care about, making America great again, then how can you sit there in silence and complicity and be okay with this? How can you be okay with the onset slaughter of children and call yourself a pro-life guy or a girl, not discriminating gender? How can you sit there and be okay that your tax dollars that could go towards, building roads, that can go towards fixing the hospitals, that can go towards small towns and cities across America or Canada or any of these allied nations, being siphoned away to this insanity, to this diabolical insanity, to this threat of human civilization? How can you be okay with this? How can you be okay with it? So Glenn Greenwald chimed into that video we showed of the doctor, and he says Israel's loyalists in the United States are trained to dismiss every source that disparages Israel, every media outlet, UN agency, humanitarian aid group, all lying anti-Semites. Here's a European doctor from the noble MSF. If that's what you need, on what she's seen with her own eyes. So that's how you know you're in a cult. That's how you know you're in a cult, when everything around you is not complicit to everything that you've been told or lied to or, doctrine for many years, to use that term phrase. That's how you know you're in a cult. And for so many of these claimed, supporters of Israel and supporter of Zionism or proud Zionists to just completely be the boy that cried wolf and point the finger at every single person that has a mild criticism as being anti-Semites, even if they are Jewish, even if they are, supportive of Jewish people and are actually protecting more Jewish people than their own psychotic armies. That's how you know you're in a cult. You're in a death cult. You're in a vicious death cult that will take your lives and use you and exploit you for their own purposes. That's why right now Jewish civilians in Israel are being beaten, because the people getting beaten up don't comply to Netanyahu's insidious demands of war. They don't subscribe to murdering a bunch of Palestinians and taking over their land. They don't subscribe to bombarding Lebanon or attacking Iran or causing destruction in Syria. They don't subscribe to that. They just want peace and stability, just like any other human being. But you have psychotic people. And here's an example of this. So Piers Morgan, not calling him a psychotic, but he's on the verge. He interviewed this woman here, who looks like something out of a Disney cartoon. She looks like one of those like Hansel and Gretel witches that live in like a candy house and brings them in and then realize that she wants to eat the kids. That's what I see out of this. Piers Morgan interviewed her, and she is supposedly the godmother of the Israeli settler movement. So this woman here is one of the chief architects for the Greater Israeli Project. And you know kind of exactly how she's going to dispute herself. What kind of tone she's going to direct Piers Morgan on. This really highlights the diabolical nature of this death cult. To the fact that Piers Morgan, who just recently decided to really speculate on, you know, the death of Palestinian children as being a problem, finally coming to terms with that just recently, makes him seem like a saint. That really says a lot. But here's what went down.
How do you feel about the fact that over 20,000 Palestinian children have now been killed since October the 7th in Gaza?
I think that the Palestinians, as you said, I said Palestinians, the Gazans and all Arabs around should stop attacking Israel.
Right, I just asked you how you thought about 20,000 children being killed by the IDF. So how do you feel about that?
I think that the parents should be very careful before they teach the children to hate Jews and to kill Jews.
No, that wasn't my question. That wasn't my question. Sorry.
So Piers Morgan is asking her, is it right that 20,000 Palestinians, including young children, should be openly murdered for the defense of your insidious country? Do you think it's right to murder defenseless children and not hold yourself accountable? And she has no response to it, completely disregards the question, and goes into the psychotic rant of, well, the parents of those Arab nations need to be aware. Like, when I hear that, it literally sounds like one of those, like, Looney Tune cartoon witches. Like, I'll be back for you, my precious. I'll get you too, and your little dog. Like the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. But she's smacking down on the parents of... Just so psychotic. It's so psychotic that you're going to go after families. You're going to go after the kids and say, oh, it's because they're parents. You know, that's why we had to kill their children, because at some point, we're not totally sure, but at some point, they're going to be raised to become terrorists. Yeah, maybe if you continuously bomb them relentlessly year after year after year, they kind of get angry. If someone attacked my family for many, many years, and many of my family members get brutally murdered by a horrendous authoritarian dictator-like takeover, then yes, I would be a bit angry. That's human nature. But this woman just completely overhead. Let's hear that again.
How do you feel about the fact that over 20,000 Palestinian children have now been killed since October the 7th in Gaza?
I think that the Palestinians, as you said, I said Palestinians, the Gazans and all Arabs around should stop attacking Israel.
Right, I just asked you how you thought about 20,000 children being killed by the IDF. So how do you feel about that?
I think that the parents should be very careful before they teach the children to hate Jews and to kill Jews.
No, that wasn't my question. That wasn't my question. Sorry to be persistent, but my question...
That was your question.
My question was, how do you feel? My question was, how do you feel? How do you personally feel about over...
Even her, like, statement there, like, well, that's my answer. You asked the question, but that... I'm giving you something. I'm giving you something. You're not even answering the question. You're just going on a psychotic supremacist rant about how, it's the Arab families. Remember Trump said that? Remember Trump said something similar to that where, it's not enough that we'd kill the actual terrorists. We got to go after their families. Because at some point, little Johnny Two Shoes is going to grow up to be one of them. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? That's what a psychotic supremacist says. How is this any different than what 1940s Germany, the Nazis, said about Jewish people? How is this any different than what the KKK says about black families? This is what I mean. Zionism is a supremacist death cult. And they will attack even their own. Even their own. If it stands in the way of their greater Israeli project that goes against the prophecy of their one master supremacist race. Like, it is diabolical. But there's more.
The 20,000 Palestinian children now being killed since October the 7th in Gaza. How do you feel about that?
I think that Arabs, Gazans or Jordanians or Syrians, whoever, should be very, very careful with the way they educate the children.
Yeah, that wasn't my
Right
question.
now,
That wasn't my question.
many of them,
Can you
that
answer
was
my question?
answer. That was my answer.
So you don't
to your
care?
question.
You have no
chose-
thoughts about these children at all?
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you, my precious. And your little dog, too. Stop teaching your children to hate. Okay. First off, I just want to say that while she's making these horrendous, stupid-ass, I can't even say arguments, because there's nothing really to defend on that, these insidious rants, let's just say these insidious rants, you realize that the IDF is promoting summer camps for young children. You realize that. You realize that the IDF promotes summer camps to train as young as toddlers to arm themselves with ammunition and rifles and guns and prep them to the IDF soldierhood. You realize that's a thing. You realize that they're indoctrinating people and educating generation after generation to be this supremacist death cult, that they are the one. They are the God's chosen people. Like, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Seriously. And I ask yourself, how is this any different than Nazis? How is this any different than Klansmen? How is this any different than any insidious supremacist cult that you know and heard of? How is this any different? That this psychotic woman who has not yet answered Pierce's questions, this is making Pierce look like a saint. Which, trust me, Pierce Morgan is definitely no saint. But this is making him so good because of how heinous this woman is. How painfully heinous. Well, it's you can't doctrine the children to hate Jewish people. No, they hate the people that are attacking them. They hate the military that is purposely killing members of their community. They hate that. They hate that they're being in a concentration camp. And that's not my wording of that. That's straight from the IDF soldiers themselves. That they want to create a concentration camp for these people. They absolutely hate and detest anyone that is outside of this cult. Anyone that criticizes them, anyone that questions them, anything that stands in their way of their vision, of their insidious, heinous Zionist vision, is considered lower than dirt. They have no respect, no tolerance, no morals, nothing. And this is proof. This is proof. You're making the argument of, well, the children of these Arab countries, they shouldn't be programming them to. Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. Speak for the United States of America that do it to their kids. Or how about here in Canada? Every country indoctrinates their kids, for God's sakes. Like, it is just insane. It's insane. Let's see the rest.
You choose your questions, and I answer them
Of course.
the way I believe is right.
But just to be clear, you have nothing to say about 20,000 children being killed. Nothing at all.
I have a lot to say about everything that happened as a result of the massacre of the 7th of October.
Now, I understand you care about Israeli
Arabs
children
and
who died,
Gazans
as do
be-
I. But
Yeah,
I'm able to care about both sides of children who've died. Why don't you care, seemingly, about the Palestinian children who've died? Why can't you express any sympathy or sorrow or empathy with the children who've died in Gaza? Are you able to do that?
You know why, Pierce? Because she herself has been indoctrinated. She herself has been mind controlled. She herself has been taught to hate against the others. So, this exposes the entire hypocrisy of all this. The entire hypocrisy, the entire Zionist cult is finally getting revealed. This is why people just don't have tolerance for this anymore. Because it's out in the open. It's very well aware. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out how heinous this woman is. How hypocritical she is when she's, pointing the finger at all these Arab nations, training their children to be little Jew haters. And yet, herself realizes that her own state of affairs is currently getting children militarized through summer camps promoted by the IDF and putting them in line to continue on this barrage against Palestinians and other Arab nations. Like, holy crap. Holy crap. I can't even take this woman seriously. There's no defense to this. There's no defense to this. It's pure evil. It's pure evil. Even when she does the stare afterwards. Like, again, this is like supervillain material. This is stuff that comic books would make articles and movies about. I'm sure Marvel Studios can use her for her next movie. Because that's how heinous this woman is. And the fact that she can't even she has no argument. She has no argument. She can't even answer Pierce's questions whatsoever. Should we see the rest of this?
I warn all Arabs from all sides, from all borders, warn them, stop educating children to hate Jews.
So just to be clear, I've now offered you three times.
I made myself very clear.
Oh, you've made yourself very clear.
You asked me 5 times.
I'm going to give you one last.
You asked me 7 times.
Okay, I'm going to give you one last chance to offer some empathy or sympathy or sorrow.
And then she giggles. She giggles about how she never answered the question. I said things 7 times. 6, 7, 5. I don't know. A lot of times. I answer things. Well, you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the damn question that Piers Morgan just made it easy. Like, he's softballing this interview. He's literally softballing this interview. He's giving you little kid passes with kid gloves. Do you find killing children, innocent children of Palestine, to be bad? Do you consider that to be bad? And she sits there with a smile on her face. She's giggling. She's laughing. Well, they got what they deserve because, the Arab countries shouldn't be teaching their kids to hate this country. Hate my people. Well, maybe stop killing them. Maybe stop creating wars and annihilating their territories, stealing their resources, and turning the world upside down. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever thought of that? Stop educating your kids and indoctrinating your kids to become future murderers for the state. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. And to sit there with that creepy ass smile. Like, look at that. How can anyone have tolerance for her? How can anyone be on that side and do that with a smile on their face? Unless they're diabolical. Unless they are a villainous cult member themselves. How can anyone be okay with this just absolute monster? Which I wish I knew her name. Say what her name is on here. Daniella Weiss. How is this okay? The fact that you're making Piers Morgan look like a friggin' saint, which we know Piers Morgan is far from being a saint. The fact that he is just asking like the lightest question and she completely ignores it, sitting there with an evil smirking grin, talking about how pointing the finger at Arab nations and how they educate their kids. That's how you know you're losing the argument. Because it doesn't take rocket science to figure out that is complete bull.